How can a man walk away from a child that he has been raising for 3, 5, 10, 15 years simply because the DNA test shows that he's not the biological father? Hear me out here. I'm not being insensitive. I know that his world has just been turned upside down. I know he feels betrayed. He's devastated. I empathize. I sympathize with his predicament. However, how is one able to walk away from a child that one has bonded with, loved, nurtured, poured blood and sweat into, simply because the DNA test shows that you're not the biological father? I understand getting rid of the wife or the girlfriend. The word I actually want to use starts with a W and rhymes with sure. Get rid of the W. But the children or the child, the innocent child, it is flummoxing to me. Now, I'm not a man and I do not know how this impacts men. I also know that there's deep shame. But were I in that predicament, of course I would be devastated. I'd be hurt and betrayed. But then I'd let the children know or the child know. You may not be my biological child, but you're still my child. I love you. You're my child in my heart. I've bonded with you. I've raised you. So nothing changes.
No, everything changes. What do you mean simply because the DNA test said that it's not your child? Do you know the level of betrayal that is for a man to have spent resources, time, effort, energy? Women will never understand that. They could never understand the possibility of a person divesting themselves from another human being. People do it every day, though. Women bond with men on a regular basis, say I do, and then over 80% of the time they decide that they want to file for divorce. In the same way that in an instant, a woman can say that, you know what, I no longer love you, and now I want to also tear your life apart and make sure that you don't have resources to be able to live the life that you want to, even though I said that I loved you and I wanted the best for you at one time, but I no longer actually understand exactly why you don't want to pay alimony and child support to a person whose child is not yours. Because let's be clear, there's a lot of people that are paying child support for children that aren't theirs. There are a lot of people that actually adopted the child that wasn't there as a stepfather. So imagine the devastation that comes along with the fraud, because that's what it is. It's fraud because you knew you slept with somebody else and you knew that wasn't his child. Imagine the level of fraud that is being perpetuated, and then the men that suffer as a result of it. And you saying from a simple paternity test, DNA, that it's not yours, that men are supposed to continue to do this? Get the hell out of here, bro. I can't even believe we having this conversation. How come, here's a better question. How come we never, and I mean never, ever, 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 have a conversation about women that commit paternity fraud, and why aren't we advocating for paternity fraud at birth? Why are people so against paternity fraud at birth? That's what I'm really trying to understand. Forget all the rest of this stuff. Forget having a conversation about certain things and that and that. Yeah, 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 I get it. Why are people so against? Why is this even a debate of whether or not people should test the paternity of the child at birth? You know why? Because I think that paternity fraud is way higher than we anticipated it. Listen, I'm thankful that we are in an era where we can test, DNA test, quickly and find out whether or not that child is yours. Doesn't even matter if you do it at birth. I know some people are so stupid, they just gonna take a woman's word for it, regardless. But I'm thankful that we live in an era where we have the technology to help men make better decisions. Because I will tell you that there was a time all throughout history where women probably committed more paternity fraud, and we didn't have the technology to be able to determine whether or not that was that child or not. It's a lot of y'all whose ancestors, grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents probably had you or had your father's father's father with another guy, and y'all will never know it because why? We didn't have the technology to really prove it to be different. You just had to go with it, or you had to figure it out, or you had to assume, or you had to figure out whether or not you wanted to lean into your insight or understanding and your instincts, and you just had to suppress it. Why? Because you had already bonded with the child. Stupid, so stupid.
Now, I know a lot of men worry about, Oh, then I have to continue paying I have to pay child support now that we're not together. So what? I'd pay the child support. Because you know what? Even though everything has changed, nothing should have changed, because it's still the child that I raised, bonded with, and loved. And in an attempt not to pay child support, one ends up cutting off one's nose to spite one's face. Because you got to look at the big picture, the relationship with that child, the continued relationship, and the ability to go ahead and raise and nurture that child, because you already have that bonded relationship. But once again, because I'm not a man, I do not understand how anybody can walk away from a child. Story time. My husband had a boss about 20 years ago. This gentleman's son had some medical issues. And to make a long story short, he found out that his 19-year-old son was not his biological child. Needless to say, he was devastated. But you know what? He had raised this child for 19 years.
He should immediately file a lawsuit, ask for her to be arrested, locked up in jail. There has to be a law for when somebody discovers that a child isn't there. It has to be some consequences that go behind that. We can't just let that. Yo, every time I hear this type of story, that break my heart.
Was paying for college. This was his son, and he was not going to let him go. And my heart broke for him, but I was so proud of this man because he did not walk away from his child. And I think at times some men might think walking away from the child is a way to punish the woman for her betrayal. But at the end of the day, the person you're hurting is the child. And I can't help but wonder, won't you be traumatized as a person walking away from someone that you've bonded with, that you've loved? For the man, isn't that traumatic? I mean, I really do not understand. I just cannot relate. And once again, I'm not a man. I'm sensitive to the hurt, to the pain, to the betrayal. But is it right to walk away from a child you've bonded with simply because the DNA test shows that you're not the biological father?
This is the craziest stuff that I've ever heard of in my entire life. I'm not going for it. I don't suggest that you guys go for it. I think that you guys got to be more careful with who it is that you align yourself with, but at the same time, protect yourself. Get that DNA test. Don't just take people's word for it. Don't trust nobody. Protect yourself. And until there's laws that actually punish people for fraud like this, laws for fraud when it comes to paternity should be, you get worse consequences doing PPP loan fraud. You get worse consequences doing all of that. So you telling me that it's illegal for us to steal from the government, but it's not illegal from us to steal from each other. People should not be punished. You know what? I can't think of a worse type of betrayal. Betrayal of her cheating on you, sleeping with somebody else, or whatever, but you raising another man's child, thinking that it's yours, has to be the worst type of betrayal that you could possibly ever do in life. The worst ever. I don't understand it. I don't understand how y'all can validate it and justify it and think that it's okay. You literally have women out here telling men that, but why would you punish the child? Bitch, why you punish the child? That's what I would tell her, straight up to her face. Always like to leave links back to the content creator because that's the right thing to do. Make sure you guys tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. T Gently, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I want to know what y'all think inside of this comments. Peace.